everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I am harvesting some cucumbers. This is my second harvest. So I am partially down my row, not even halfway, and I've already got my bucket half full. So there are a lot of cucumbers out here. So this year I decided to grow all pickling cucumbers, and it's kind of, I think, had a negative impact on the amount of pests that I've had. This year I have cucumber beetles, and I've been fighting with them all season long, trying to keep my plants alive. So I've already canned about 12, I believe 12 quarts of pickles already. So this is our second batch. We'll see how many we get here, but I'm really excited to have pickles on the shelf because when I saw all of those cucumber beetles, I was very nervous that they might not stay alive for too long. So I do have some very healthy looking cucumber plants, and I have some not so healthy looking ones. So I believe that some of them might have gotten disease, and I'll be pulling those today as well and getting them away from the garden. And hopefully we will continue to harvest our cucumbers. I almost said pickles. Our cucumbers for a while longer. So right now we've got some beautiful tiny perfect size for the little baby pickles, which I love so much. So let's get to picking and let's get into canning these cucumbers. Alright, here is our grand total of cucumbers for the day. I think this is like a 2-gallon bucket. Not sure, but beautiful harvest. So I've got a few bigger ones, and these ones my family prefers to be cut into rounds. So I'll cut these into rounds like hamburger pickles or whatever, sandwich pickles. And then our favorite are these little kind of baby size cucumbers or pickles. So let's go get to canning. Alright, so we got our cucumbers inside, and we've got our jalapenos as well that we picked from the garden, and I picked a bunch of dill that we can use fresh from the garden. So my first step today is going to be to wash my cucumbers, and I'm going to soak them in cold water. So I'm just going to rinse them in cold water, and then I am preparing my other sink basin. You could use a bowl if you have a big bowl, or a cooler works as well. And just I am putting just cold water and a little bit of salt in there, and I'm gonna just let them soak in the cold water while I prepare the rest of my stuff to can today. So if you pick your cucumbers because you have a bunch ready, but you're not ready to can yet, or you have more than you can in one day, what I usually do is go ahead and wash my cucumbers in the cold water, and then I prepare a cooler. So I bring my cooler inside and set it here by the counter, and I fill it up with cold water, maybe a little bit of ice and some salt. And I rinse my cucumbers and prep them by cutting off both ends, just maybe 1/8 of an inch or so, so that the blossom end and the end that was connected to the plant are both off. And then instead of putting them in the sink of cold water, I put them in my cooler of cold water, and they'll keep very fresh that way for up to like 48 hours. So if you can't do it immediately after picking, just go ahead and prep them and put them in your cooler of cold salt water, and they'll hold. Alright, so we got our cucumbers clean and soaking in some cold salt water, and I'm just going to prep all of my jars and lids and rings and get them into our water bath canner and get the canner all warming up while we prep everything else. So all of our jars are in the canner and we have got it full with hot water. So I'm just gonna put the lid on and turn it on to about medium high, somewhere in there. And we're just gonna let those sit and be warm while we prep everything else. Okay, so now we're gonna go ahead and get our brine going. So our first thing that we're gonna need for our brine is a pickling spice. So this is the pickling spice that I use. I get it at a local Amish store. However, you can get it at Walmart and other places. Have a pre-mixed pickling spice, or there's a few of the Ball canning books that will have a recipe if you want to put together your own pickling spice. So I'm going to add that. Alright, so I'm going to use 4 tablespoons of pickling spice. And that, depending on how you cut your pickles and how much you stuff them into your jar, that could do anywhere from like 8 to 13 or so quart jars. So it just depends on how firmly you pack them, and if you have small pieces or larger pieces, how much brine you're going to use. So I am going to go ahead and tie this up. I just have it in a cotton cloth. You can use whatever kind of cheesecloth or anything that you have at home. I just tie it up. I like to give it a little turn and then tie it with some cotton kitchen string. Tie it up nice and tight because we are going to put this in our brine, and we don't want to have those spices coming out of the bag. Also, if you have like little muslin tea bags or anything, you could totally put your spices in those as well. Alright, so there's our spice bag. We're going to go over to the stove and get this into our pot with some water, vinegar, salt, and sugar. And get that brine going. Alright, so I am adding 16 cups of water, and then we're going to add 12 cups of white vinegar, and if you're making a small batch, you can just cut these ingredients all in half if you only have, say, a few pints or a few quarts. Alright. And I'm going to just start my burner heating up on about a medium high or so. I'm going to add a 1/4 cup of sugar. I have left this out in the past if you don't want to have sugar in your pickles. Some people find that just with the vinegar and no sugar, it's too sharp for them. So, but if you like your pickles really sharp and vinegary, feel free to leave out the sugar. If you like them a little bit sweeter, you could double that and put 1/2 cup of sugar, whatever your preference is. It's not, the sugar is not for preserving in any way. The vinegar is going to be doing that, and the salt. So the sugar is not to preserve your pickles, so it's just to take the bite out of the vinegar. I am going to put 1.5 cups of salt. You can use pickling salt or whatever salt you want, as long as it's not mixed with anything else. I'm using real salt. That's pretty much all we use in our family, so 1.5 cups. Alright, and then we're going to put our spice bag in here, and we are going to bring this up to a simmer. And then we're going to let this just simmer for about 15 minutes so that our spices can really infuse with our brine. So while we wait for our brine to finish, I have made sure I have all of my other ingredients and such all prepared and in kind of an assembly line so I can quickly load my jars and get them back into the canner. So I had my larger pickles. I have all pickling cucumbers, as I think I said, but the bigger ones I have sliced into about 1/4 inch thick slices. That's how my family prefers them, in these rounds. And the smaller pickles, which is our absolute favorite, all these kind of baby pickles, I am going to can them whole because they're tiny. Under, I don't know, that's probably under 2 inches, 2 to 4 inches max probably on the baby pickles. I'm going to be putting garlic and jalapenos in ours because we like it spicy. So you can omit the garlic and or jalapenos if you would like, if you want to just do regular dill, or you could do garlic dill, and we like spicy garlic dill. So that's what I'm going to be doing today. These are all out of the garden as well. I like to use a combination of fresh and dried dill. So I have dill seeds right here that I'm going to be adding 1 tablespoon per quart jar. I will be putting in 2 teaspoons per jar of mustard seed, 1/4 teaspoon of this pickle fresh, which is like a pickle crisp, and then I will be putting some of my fresh garlic from the garden. Usually I do like 1 flower head and maybe a sprig such as this in each quart jar as well. So I will be loading my jars here on this towel, using my bubble poker to get all the air bubbles out. We'll grab our lid and ring, and then we will get it into our canner. So we have a nice assembly line here ready to go. Ooh, smell the vinegar. All right, so our brine is ready. So we're gonna go ahead and start loading up our jars and getting them into our canner. Our canner is still on about a medium high, and here in a minute I'm gonna go ahead and turn it up on high just to get it warming up. So I'm gonna pull my hot jars out of the hot water. And bring it over here to my filling station. Depending on how fast you are, you could load a couple at once. So I'm gonna put a jalapeno and a garlic in. I like to put in all of my ingredients first and then my pickles. It's a little bit, makes for a little bit easier time, especially putting in the dill. Alright, and then, like I said, put in some fresh dill. And then we will start to load up our pickles, or cucumbers. soon to be pickles. You want to pack them in pretty tightly, but you don't want to kind of go overboard because you do need to get the brine in there. I'm going to pick some varying sizes here. And we're going to fill them. We're going to leave a generous 1/2 inch of head space here with the pickles, cucumbers. Alright, I think I can fit another one in there. Perfect. Alright, and I've got my measuring tool just so I can make sure nothing is sticking up too high. And then we're going to ladle in our hot brine. Again, we're going to leave a 1/2 inch of head space at the top. You want to make sure that your jars are nice and hot here so you don't break them when you put in your hot brine. And then I'm going to go ahead and use the other end of my measuring tool. Stick it in there the best you can. I like to stick it in at least a couple spots. Make sure we don't have any air trapped down in there. And then sometimes you have to readjust your pickles to just make sure that they're back where you stuffed them. And I lost my rag. Alright, and then we're just going to clean off our rim, make sure that we don't have anything stuck to it. Add our lid and our ring to fingertip tight. And then we're going to put this back into the canner and fill up the rest of them. Alright, so we've got our last jar. We're going to get this over into the canner. gonna just check and make sure that we have at least 1 inch above the jars, which we do. So we're all set. Because I'm using this electric canner, I'm gonna go ahead and turn all the way up to canning. I'm gonna go ahead and put this handy little insert in there on top. This just is supposed to help keep them jars from bouncing around or the water from getting to boiling too hard, which is nice. So I'm going to go ahead and put my lid on, and we will wait for this to begin boiling rapidly, and then we will start our timer. We are going to process this for quarts are going to be 15 minutes, 10 minutes if you're just doing pints. Our timer just went off. We processed these for 15 minutes, so I went ahead and shut the canner off, removed the lid, and now I'm just gonna let these sit in the water bath canner for another 5 minutes, and then we'll go ahead and take them out. Alright, so it's been 5 minutes. We are now going to remove our jars from the canner. We're just going to set them on a towel out of the way. Alright, there we are, 7 quarts of spicy garlic dill pickles, and we are going to leave these undisturbed on the counter for 24 hours. So tomorrow we will remove the bands, check the seal by lifting the jar by the lid, make sure everything's sealed properly. Then I like to wash them in warm soapy water, rinse them, dry them, and label them, and then they'll go down into the pantry. Alright you guys, so that is how I can my pickles. I hope that this video was helpful to you and that you enjoy it. So we will see you guys again real soon. Have a good day and God bless.